Hello everyone. Welcome back to the Cleanup Tuto YouTube channel. Today I will bring you a story titled One Night at Hollow Pine Hotel. Please listen. Noah Westfield has always been dangerously curious. He wasn't the type to wait for the world to knock on his door. He was the type to scour the internet, flip through forgotten blog posts, follow blurry photos and creepy videos, and dive headfirst into places that normal people would avoid. And this time, Noah's destination was a decaying hotel in a silent pine forest, abandoned for more than 2 decades, rumored to be the site of uninhabitable phenomena. Hollow Pine Hotel. Are you sure you want to do this? Julian Rivera asked for the 13th time as their truck turned onto the red dirt road. Covered with pine needles, I rented a drone, got spare batteries, an infrared camera, and an electromagnetic meter. You think I'm just going for a walk? Noah laughed. Julian shook his head. I think you're crazy. It takes a madman to find something that others fear. Julian laughed, but his eyes held concern. He'd known Noah since college, and if anyone had ever gone down a sewer because they'd heard singing coming from it, it was Noah. Except this time, things were more serious. The Hollow Pine Hotel was a popular destination in the 1980s, standing out in the pinewood forest with its old Gothic architecture. But in the spring of 2005, after a night of heavy rain, the place suddenly closed. No announcement, no big headline, just a stray line in the local paper. Hollow Pine Hotel temporarily closed for maintenance, but it never reopened. For 20 years, locals avoided mentioning the name. A few rumors circulated that people had gone missing in the night, that the hotel manager, Evelyn Moore, had never left the premises, and then, gradually, people forgot about it, but not Noah. Before the trip, Noah packed a bunch of gear, 3 GoPro cameras, a handheld camcorder, high-quality microphones, powerful flashlights, an EMF meter, and even a couple of thermometers. Julian took care of the electricity, solar panels, and setting up a makeshift shelter if needed overnight. When they stopped the car in front of the hotel, the sun was beginning to set. The hotel appeared as if it had stepped out of a black and white photograph, 3 stories high, covered in vines. With broken windows and peeling paint, the wooden sign was faded, so that only the words could be, read, OW Pine Hotel. The silence was eerily quiet, no birds, no wind, just the crunch of their footsteps on the mossy path. Julian paused. Did you hear that? Noah narrowed his eyes. Absolute silence. Julian nodded. That's so wrong. The front door opened more easily than they expected. A hard push and the rotten wood groaned and gave way. The smell of mold and decay was so strong that Julian had to cover his nose. Inside was a large lobby, cracked wooden floors, a toppled reception desk, a worn red carpet covered in dead leaves and insects. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling strangely, still intact. Noah pulled out his camera. We'll clear this area, put down a mat, and shoot the introduction video tonight. Julian nodded, but didn't take his eyes off the large mirror at the end of the hall. The only thing that remained unnaturally shiny, as if someone cleaned it every day. While Julian set up the lampstand, Noah walked around the lobby, behind the reception desk. He came across a large painting that had fallen off the wall, upside down. When he lifted it, it revealed a recess in the wall behind it, covered with plywood. Come here and see this, Noah called. Julian moved forward, his flashlight shining it. In the recess was a small, sealed metal box. It took them a few minutes to pry open the lid. Inside was an old black USB drive and a rusted metal name tag. Moore manager. Noah glanced at Julian. We just found the first secret. That night, after clearing the lobby area, they set up a small tent and booted up their laptops. Julian plugged in a USB drive. There was a single file, hollownight_05.mp4. The video is 3 minutes long, shot with a handheld camera. The image is blurry and shaky. A group of 5 young people, 3 men, 2 women, were laughing and joking in the hotel dining room. They were talking about seances and preparing a simple ritual, candles, mirrors and a piece of paper with the name of someone who had died on it. At the 2-minute mark, the light in the video flickers. One of the girls says, "There's someone in the mirror. Can you see it?" Then there was a scream. The camera shook violently, and then the screen went black. A very small whisper was heard before the video ended. If she comes back, don't look at her in the eyes. Julian closed his laptop. They were both silent for a moment. Noah, Julian began. I know, Noah replied softly. Julian went to bed early, after checking the cameras and locking the main door. Noah couldn't sleep. He wanted to check the old toilet at the end of the hall to make sure there were no rats or termites. When Noah turned on the flashlight and shined it into the bathroom mirror, he caught a glimpse of a figure standing behind him in the mirror. A woman with long hair and wearing a black dress. He turned around in surprise, nothing. But when he looked back in the mirror, the shadow had disappeared. There was only him, and a small, faint line of words appeared on the dusty mirror. "See you tonight." Noah backed away, trembling as he closed the door, then returned to the tent without saying anything to Julian. The infrared night vision camera captured the quiet lobby. The lights flickered. There was no wind, but a rocking chair in the corner was swaying gently inside the tent. Noah lay facing away. The camera caught his face. For a few seconds, his eyes were open, though his breathing was even as if he were asleep. At the end of the frame, a blur appears. It drifts like smoke. The screen goes black. Next, the first signs when you begin to realize the house is never really empty. The next morning, sunlight filtered through cracks in the roof, shining directly onto the tattered carpet where the two boys slept. The air was colder than they had expected, but not the pleasant chill of early morning. It was a cold, damp, goosebump-inducing chill. Noah opened his eyes first. He sat up, squinting around. The tent was still there. Julian was curled up in his sleeping bag beside him. But something was wrong. The carpet around the tent has footprints, not theirs. They had never walked in or out in those muddy shoes. Not animals, either. Human footprints, bare, faintly imprinted in the thick dust. Some circled the tent. Some led out into the dark corridor. Noah felt his stomach tighten. He bent down and took out his night vision camera to check the night vision footage. The video started at 0:02. The camera automatically activated when it detected motion. He slowed it down, minute 3. There was a creaking sound, like old wood under someone's feet. Then a dark shadow moved across the frame, tall, long hair. And then, at 7 minutes, the camera picked it up. A woman standing at the end of the hallway, across from their tent, dressed in a black dress, her face down, not moving, not doing anything, just stand there. About 1 minute later, the image disappears. Noah stopped breathing. His hands shook as he turned off the machine. "Julian, wake up. We need to talk." Julian frowned, rubbing his head as he sat up. "Last night I dreamed you were pulled from your bed," he said. "There was something in the dark. It spoke with my voice." Noah swallowed. "Are you sure this is a dream?" Julian didn't answer right away. He quietly zipped up his sleeping bag and stepped out of the tent. After a few seconds, he stopped. "What is this?" He looked down at the footprints. "We're not the only ones here," Noah said softly. Julian was silent for a long time. Then he turned back, opened the equipment box, and pulled out a small handheld camera and an electromagnetic field EMF meter. "We need to check the entire ground floor right away, and this time, document everything." They started in the kitchen, where the wooden door bore faint claw marks. It was dark inside. The refrigerator was leaking. The microwave was half off the shelf, but most notable was a wooden table with 5 chairs placed in a circle. On the table was a dusty round mirror, out of place with anything else in the interior, as if it had been placed there recently. Julian looked in the mirror. "It makes me dizzy." Noah wiped the mirror clean with his glove. When the smudge was gone, they stepped back. In the mirror, both of them were clearly visible, but behind them was a third figure. When I turned around, there was no one. The mirror fogs up again soon after. It can't be wiped clean again. That evening, while checking the wall on the right side of the hall for an EMF meter, Julian heard 3 knocks from inside the wall. Clear, precise, regular. He brought his ear closer. A faint sound came from inside the bricks. "I saw you. You saw me." Julian jumped up and backed away, his face pale. At the same time, the EMF meter on his hand crossed the threshold. The light flashed red, signaling unusual electromagnetic energy. Even though there were no electrical wires in the area, Noah tried to keep his composure. "We triggered something." When they returned to the tent, they found a piece of paper stuffed under the tarp. They both swore they had left nothing there. The thin, yellowed piece of paper, with its crooked handwriting, read, "Don't trust the mirrors." Noah felt his stomach tighten. "Someone knows we're here." "Not someone," Julian said softly. "It was something." As it began to rain, they were forced to stay another night before they could get back out onto the slippery dirt roads. Julian decided to take the night shift. Noah fell asleep after writing a few notes in his notebook. 2 a.m. The lobby camera captured Noah leaving the tent and walking into the hallway, eyes open but empty. He walked up the stairs, go to the second floor. Julian woke up to the sound of the floor creaking. Noah, no reply. Julian hurriedly turned on the flashlight, took the camera, and ran up to the second floor. The second floor was much colder. No wind, no open doors, and the air felt frozen. When Julian shone his light down the hallway, he saw Noah standing with his back to him. At the end of the hall, Noah, Julian called. Noah didn't answer, didn't move. He stepped forward, slowly. Are you okay? Before he could touch it, Noah turned his head. His face was blank, his eyes were white, and he spoke in a completely unfamiliar voice. She watches, she listens. Don't bring light. Power cut, flashlight off, all was dark. Julian struggled to turn on the backup lights, which took more than 20 seconds. When the lights came back on, Noah was gone. Julian panicked, shouting, running all over the second floor. No one, not a sound. It was not until near dawn that he found Noah, asleep in the tent, as if he had never left. Noah, you were on the second floor. Julian gasped. Noah opened his eyes and shook his head. I was sleeping. Julian stepped back. No, I saw you. I spoke to you. But that wasn't your voice. Noah was silent. But when Julian went to shower, he opened his notebook and saw a new line that wasn't his own. I saw the mirror. I saw her. It was still early when Julian opened the hall window. The morning air blew in quietly. But unlike other days, the wind carried no freshness. It was a strange chill that made him shiver. Noah sat brooding at their makeshift desk, flipping through the notebook. The page with the strange words was still there. I saw the mirror. I saw her, written in a completely different hand than the rest. You sure you didn't write this down? Julian asked. Noah just shook his head. We can't deny it anymore. Something is trying to tell us, guiding us. Before breakfast, they decided to go back to the second floor to check. Julian brought the metal rod he had just found in the storage room. Noah carried a handheld camera, which was always on and recording. As he reached the second floor, daylight filtered through the broken window, revealing a bleak scene. A long, dusty hallway, a rotting ceiling, and a few doors ajar as if someone had just passed through. The air was thick. Do you smell something? Noah whispered. Julian smelled it. The smell of smoldering wood, like a snuffed candle. But there was no sign of fire. They stopped at the end of the hallway. The last room on the left is locked with a rusty chain from the outside, and the door has a strange symbol carved on it, a circle with 3 diagonal lines running through it. This is a seal, Julian whispered. Noah nodded. It's not like anyone locks their room from the outside, unless there's something inside that needs to be locked up. It took nearly 15 minutes to cut the chains with the iron bar and hammer. When the lock came off, both stood still for a few seconds. Noah pushed the door open. The door creaked open, revealing a completely different room. No dust, no cobwebs, no signs of abandonment. The walls were painted a pale cream, and everything was covered with a clean white sheet, as if it had just been washed. There was a small candle on the bedside table, half burned. On the wall hung a painting, a woman in a black dress, her back to the viewer. There was no sign of life, but there was also no sign that time had passed. It's like someone still lives here, Julian whispered. In the desk drawer they found a thick notebook, bound in brown leather. Inside was written in delicate handwriting, Diary, Evelyn Moore. They read the last paragraphs. March 5th, 2005. The third girl said she saw someone in the mirror, a woman with no face. I told them to stop. They left. They thought it was a game. March 6th, I heard a whisper at 3 a.m. Not from the hallway, from the mirror. It called my name. Evelyn, Evelyn, Evelyn. March 7th, they are gone. The room is empty. No trace. But the mirror remains, and the voice is clearer. I cannot leave. I am stuck with this thing. It does not need a door. It needs human eyes. Noah read the last line aloud in a hoarse voice. Julian paused, looking around. Do you see any mirrors in the room? Noah shook his head. No. But do you notice anything strange about the painting? They looked back at the painting on the wall. The woman in the black dress, her back turned as before. Julian narrowed his eyes. I swear she wasn't standing near the window like she is now. Noah approached, bringing the camera closer. In the painting, the woman now tilts her head slightly, as if listening. When Julian shined the light directly on the painting, the light reflected off the woman's eyes, even though her back was turned. Noah, get out. Now. Before they could turn around, the back door slammed shut, the latch locked from the outside. Julian rushed to the door and pounded. It can't be. There's no one out there. Noah turned the camera to record. The picture was now blank, just landscape. No people. They heard light footsteps in the hallway. Then a voice whispered Evelyn's voice. She's not in the mirror, she's behind. 5 minutes later, with nothing else to do, they sat on the floor. Julian leaned against the door, and the lock suddenly clicked. It opened automatically. There was no one outside, but on the hallway floor there was a strip of white paper, written in red marker. You guys shouldn't stay tomorrow night. Julian took the strip of paper. Someone is playing cat and mouse. Noah was silent. The image of the woman in the painting with her back turned kept repeating in his mind, like a never-ending soundtrack. That night, they slept on the ground floor as usual. But this time, Julian was the one dreaming. He found himself standing in Evelyn's room, looking into the giant mirror. In the mirror, he did not see himself, only to see Noah, standing behind with a strange smile, empty eyes, whispering, "I always come back, and this time, I'm staying." Julian woke up with a start, his shirt drenched in sweat. Noah was still sleeping next to her, breathing evenly. But something is wrong. On Noah's hand, there was a red ink stain, as if he had just written something. After the third night of haunting, Julian woke up to sunlight streaming through the main hall window. Noah was still asleep, looking more normal than last night. But Julian couldn't forget the dream, or rather the nightmare. Noah with his eyes wide open, whispering in a voice that wasn't his own, and the red ink on his hand was still there, even though it had disappeared without a trace this morning. Julian looked at Noah, full of doubt. They need answers, not from mirrors, not from walls, but from the living. About 15 kilometers from the hotel is the town of Pinewood, the only nearby place that once provided food, services and manpower to the Hollow Pine Hotel when it was in operation. Julian suggested leaving the hotel for a few hours to visit the public library. If we want to know what really happened in 2005, now is the time. Noah agreed, but the whole way, he kept looking out the window with a blank look in his eyes. Not exactly tired, not exactly sad, just like he didn't belong here. The Pinewood Library was old but quiet. A thin old librarian with neatly tied white hair sat at the reception desk. Julian approached and asked politely, "Excuse me, do you have any records on the Hollow Pine Hotel? Newspaper articles from 2005, perhaps?" The old lady looked up, her eyes filled with fear as if someone had stabbed her in the back. "Hollow Pine," she whispered. "What are you looking for there for?" Julian hesitated. "We're filming a documentary. There's been rumors about a disappearance." The old man glanced at Noah, then stunned. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled as she grabbed her glasses. Her voice was hoarse. He is the person in that photo." Noah frowned. She said nothing more, just staggered to her feet, took an old, discolored, unlabeled envelope from a drawer, and handed it to Julian. "I never give this to anyone, but if he's really there, you need to know this, then leave that place, now." Inside the envelope was a photocopy of an old newspaper article, not available online, never officially published. 5 missing from Hollow Pine. Police suspect cult ritual. The victims: Ava Sinclair, 22 years old, history student; Marcus Heller, 24 years old, photographer; Ryan Westfield, 21 years old, theology student; Celia Tran, 23 years old, visual artist; Leon Moore, 25 years old, son of Evelyn Moore. Noah was startled. "Westfield? Ryan Westfield?" Julian turned, stunned. Noah whispered, "Ryan is my cousin." The file also includes a group photo, 5 young people sitting in a hotel lobby, dressed in black, holding candles. The photo is taken at an angle and is blurry, but when Julian looked closely, his heart pounded. "Damn, that guy in the middle, Ryan, looks just like you. Not just similar, frighteningly similar. Same face, same shape, deep eyes and high forehead. Only different the look." Ryan in the photo looked blank, almost cold. Julian slowly turned to Noah. "Are you sure you've never been to Hollow Pine?" Noah paused. He looked at the photo, then bowed his head. "I don't know. I remember. I always felt like I had dreams about that place. Been there, but I don't have any clear memories." No one said anything more on the way back to the hotel. After returning to Hollow Pine, Julian was determined to inspect the entire structure. There must be some way they could have performed the ritual. It can't have been a coincidence. While inspecting the old dining room, they discovered a slightly crooked wooden rug, pulling it out. Underneath was a small trapdoor, locked with a rotten wooden bolt. Below is a spiral staircase leading down to the basement that has never appeared on the hotel map. The air below was colder. The smell of ash, resin, and damp mold mingled together, making it difficult to breathe. At the end of the basement corridor was a circular room. Black stone walls, low ceiling. In the middle of the room was a large stone table. On it was a circular sign with 3 diagonal lines, the same symbol seen on the locked door of the second floor. Round the table were 5 candles, all half-burned. On the wall, hand-carved, hollow is the gate. Eyes are the key. Mirrors are the door. Julian turned away. This isn't a prayer. This is a summoning. Noah stood still. His face was pale. I saw this place in my dream. I was lying on that table, looking up, and around me were 4 people chanting something. Julian shivered. On the stone wall, behind the altar, is a deeply engraved line. We cannot call the dead. We only invite others. Julian shuddered. They don't call the spirits of the dead, they call something else. And Ryan could be the host. Noah stood still. And if I have Ryan's blood, then maybe I'm the door for it to come back. When they returned to the main hall, they found the large mirror in the lobby had been smashed, glass scattered everywhere. The wooden frame splintered. In the middle of the largest piece of mirror was a line of blood-scrawled words. Don't let him sleep tonight. Julian looked at Noah. Noah looked back at him, eyes filled with confusion. I don't know what's happening to me anymore. The warning scrawled in blood on the mirror was still dripping, as if it had been written only minutes ago. Julian stared at it, mesmerized. His whole body went rigid. Noah sat down, holding his head in his hands, muttering, I don't know anymore. I don't know who I am. It was getting dark. Outside, the wind whistled through the pine trees like an otherworldly howl. One last night, and it seemed everything was waiting for tonight to be complete. Julian grabbed the car keys, but as soon as he stepped out of the main entrance, the car engine was gone. Not power outage, not sabotage. Gone. Without a trace, as if it had never existed. Only the old hotel truck, covered in dust, stood silently under the pine tree. No way out. Julian turned back to look at Noah, who was now sitting motionless on the floor, eyes wide open, staring at an invisible point. We're not leaving here, right? Julian asked. Noah nodded slightly. Not if I live. Before nightfall. Julian decided to play the old video from Evelyn Moore's USB again, this time rewinding it frame by frame. At 42 seconds, there's a quick flash of the last man in the group of 5, wearing a gray hoodie, turning his back. Julian paused, zoomed in. The person was wearing a necklace with a circular pendant. The same necklace Noah was wearing. There is no denying it. Noah was there. Or someone exactly like Noah, of the same blood, who had participated in the ritual 20 years ago, and never left this hotel, completely. 21 o'clock. Julian set up the flashlight, the camera, the EMF meter. The tent was torn apart, the furniture in disarray. The air smelled of burning candles. Even though no one was lighting anything, Noah stood in the middle of the hall, holding Evelyn's diary, his eyes now an unfamiliar blue. If I sleep tonight, you have to tie me up. You have to stop me if I get up. Julian froze. Why? Because what's inside me, it wants to come back, and it needs a full moon. Tonight is it. The clock strikes 12, calm wind. The large mirror shattered again, even though it had been shattered before. It repaired itself, becoming whole again in just a few seconds. And then the image in the mirror no longer reflected reality. Instead, it shows a picture of the hotel lobby, 20 years ago. Julian and Noah stood frozen as they watched 5 young people perform the ritual in the mirror. And in the middle of them, lying on the table, was Ryan. Westfield, no, it's Noah. Julian turned. Noah was no longer there. The EMF meter screamed, lights flashing. There were drag marks on the floor, as if someone had been dragged, leaving a faint trail of blood. Julian called Noah's name. No one answered. Julian followed the tracks down to the basement. The iron door had swung open by itself. In the stone room, 5 candles burned brightly, and on the stone table was Noah, lying motionless, eyes wide open staring at the ceiling. Surrounding them were 4 faceless black figures, holding rusty knives, standing in the exact position of the group of young men in the video years ago. Julian shouted and rushed forward, but was pushed back by an invisible force. The flashlight fell from his hand and rolled to the floor. A voice echoed in Julian's head, not through his ears, not from anyone's mouth. Hollow is the gate, he is the key, open him. Left with no choice, Julian grabbed the bottle of industrial alcohol he had found earlier, lit it, and threw it straight at the central candle. The flames flared up, red as blood, spreading rapidly to the wall with the ancient inscription. Everything shook, the shadows screamed wordlessly, then disappeared in a stream of black smoke rising from the stone table. Noah then jumped up, vomiting a thick, inky black substance. The cold air dissipated, the mirror shattered again, and this time it was not put back together. As the first light filtered through the broken glass, Julian sat down on the floor next to Noah, who was curled up as if he had just survived a death throes. I hear their voices in my head, Noah whispered. They never left, but now they're burnt for real. I think Julian took your hand. You are not Ryan. You are you. Noah just smiled weakly. Sometimes I am both. A year later, Julian released a short documentary about his trip to Hollow Pine. The film quickly went viral online, but the ending was cut. The recording of the ritual, Noah's possession, and the strange phenomena. No one knows why. Julian has gone into hiding and no longer posts. In his only interview, he said, "Some gates need to be kept closed forever," and Noah disappeared without a trace. Only one person, the librarian at Pinewood, said she had seen Noah standing in front of the broken mirror in the library, staring at his reflection and smiling. Through this story we can draw a clear message. There are places that not only house the souls of the dead, but also serve as mirrors that reflect back things we dare not admit about ourselves. And when the door to the past opens, we don't always walk out of it intact. Thank you for listening to the end of the story. Wish you and your family always healthy and happy. Goodbye and see you again in the upcoming videos.